You can be wiser as an educated advisor. Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, steps 7, 8, and 9, part 4 in our series on the 12-step process to building long-term relationships with Bob Lochard, Chief Marketing Officer of Gordon Marketing. So let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the 4th segment, Bob, in our series.
Thank you, Steve.
And I feel like I'm in a, kind of an addiction services here. I'm doing my 12 process here. I tell you what, relationships, people think it's knowledge base. I have knowledge base. Or they think you can speak, or they think you can host a show, or you can write articles. But when it comes down to selling, when it comes down to relational issues, it's all about these personal attributes towards one another.
Absolutely.
And I cannot believe how micromanaged we've actually pulled away from this, and we need to micromanage this a little bit more. And so when people are watching this episode, especially because we're going to get into one of my faves, I just really want us to become the kind of people that really do an excellent job, right? And I think it's time for us to up our relational game. Not too many of us have a shrink sitting in the side of our office, so this is a good thing. Be personal. Now listen, I can be personal, but I also can be very impersonal. Now, tell me about what I need to get done here as a characteristic for somebody else that's viewing my presentation.
Okay, and this is my hardest challenge. Mm-hmm. I grew up as an introvert. Speaking, talking, I would get literally sick. Mm-hmm. I kind of went 180 to the other side where I never shut up. And so I love to talk, I love to public speak, get in front of people. And because we're in the industry, we're in business, and that's what we do. It's so easy to immediately, I run into someone I haven't seen for a number of months, years possibly, and 3 minutes into the conversation, we're going straight to business. Or I know and I hear from you that something happened and I call and immediately we're into business. And what that is, that's us again. We're trying to get something from each other. Mm-hmm. That's that getting, taking part. Mm-hmm. This is a time where I need to be the giver. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's good, I wouldn't say sometimes, always remember that we need a part of our relationship where I'm giving and I'm not trying to get something back. So when I say, let's just go to coffee, mm-hmm. find out about your family, mm-hmm. What's going on with your children or your grandchildren. We just need to have that personal mm-hmm. exchange where I can say, hey, this isn't a business conversation. Now, mm-hmm. let's don't be mistaken. Before the day's over, you and I are going to get back to business. Mm-hmm. But don't forget the personal side. Mm-hmm.
I had an episode recently where one of my friends, long-term friends, his wife is very sick. And I spent 30 minutes with him on the phone because he was very concerned. And so we see this kind of thing. And those are the kind of things where you get an email or a text that said, I needed that at a critical moment. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, it's important.
Now, when we talk about social media, and again, we've talked about this earlier in the series. Listen, I'm all over social media. I think that's great. However, sometimes I've noticed, I wrote a little episode about my favorite time on Mother's Day. I wrote an episode, had nothing to do with business, and it went all over the net. So sometimes I've noticed that sometimes personal stories are really anecdotal for people to say, oh, I kind of got that idea because of your story.
Yeah.
They use it as a close, or they use it as an intro with a client. So using these different avenues, and they're all different. By the way, it's so funny. LinkedIn is so business-oriented where Facebook can be very personal, and they expect it.
And I would say, again, this is that part where you and I, using some guarded mm-hmm. methods, can be authentic. Mm-hmm. As you just stated, I might go out and share something coming up into a holiday, a statement. If it's military, maybe I share mm-hmm. something that I know my military friends are going to connect with. And I will open up a whole new realm of conversation when that happens. Different people talking to me that I don't know. My best friend growing up through life, we actually roomed together later in life. We went our separate ways eventually, got married. He's military, I was military. Mm-hmm. A few years ago, we stayed in loose contact, but I found out that he was suffering from cancer mm-hmm. by way of Facebook. And we reconnected through that, and I actually did his funeral for him as he passed. So sharing those experiences, that's that being authentic part again. Guarded authenticity over the net.
Well, I was really glad when I got to step 8 in your, where we're dragging through our our psychoanalysis here. I like to have fun in business. I think when we're doing the show, we like to have an edutainment. We want to have some, entertainment value. When we're doing shows, when you're doing live with your audience, you like that fun. Everybody's laughing. You're feeding off their joy. You're having fun on. It's great. Talk a little bit about, I don't want to be a workaholic, okay? Our generation, the boomers, we are stars in this regard. I want to be able to be fun so that I don't lose my edge. If I lose my edge, then I am dull.
Yeah, and steps 7 and 8 bleed together. If you notice, you could look at them and say it sounds like it's the same thing. But so as we're having those personal conversations and getting into things, don't forget that, we need to have some fun. We need to laugh. It's good for us. I try to concentrate and focus a lot upon our employees back at Gordon Marketing. I know what they do daily. I know how hard they work to help us grow our side of the business. And if you're looking to grow as an FMO, it's very labor intensive, and there's a lot of moving targets. Don't forget to have some fun, because at the end of the day, again, we only have so much energy. And if I'm not having some fun, if I'm not making sure those around me are having and sharing in that fun, we'll wear each other down and we'll just run out of energy.
Well, you could be the chief marketing officer of fun. That's what I just got out of that.
That would be a blast.
That's a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, especially when you're in the management side, people are looking to you to set the tone in the office, and they understand, yes, we have work to do. We have things to get done, but we're going to have fun doing it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, expectations. Here's the one that we could run into a brick wall. People do not disclose. They're kind of generic. They're kind of in their general terms, and they come to a conclusion about an expectation that was completely unwarranted. Talk a little bit about how to set this up so nobody's disillusioned.
Be clear from the onset, number one. We're probably, in the business world, this is probably where there's the most breakdown between us all. It's so easy for us to get involved in the conversation and just agree very loosely and vaguely. And we hear what we want to hear. And if I'm in negotiations with a company, they're going to hear what they want to hear, the items that were important to them. And if my expectations aren't clear, they only go, you have a one-sided conversation. And so we both have expectations. And it's okay to ask, and if you don't ask, if you don't prod, then you're not going to get your answers. And so I would say either from an employee standpoint, a business standpoint, the sales standpoint, whatever it is, just be as clear as possible. I like to write it down. If I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember. And communicate our expectations to one another. You and I, we both have them. So let's make them clear.
In your thinking, especially when you're on the front end of a relationship, and they like what you said, and you think you have goals and shared values, and I'm laying my first expectation down, I'm laying the first one down. That's probably, to me, the most critical, because if you fail in the priority of that one expectation, everything else could probably cave after that. So talk a little bit about, I'm going to set the tone on my first expectation so it's conquerable, as you said, clear, conquerable, and everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Measurable. Yeah, it's that, and it can be from the most simplistic avenue. I'm a big believer that there's many things. We'd like to believe we can manage everything. At the end of the day, there's only a few things we actually can manage. I can manage activity. I can be clear about that. If I were hiring you as, and we don't do this, but if I was hiring you as a telemarketer, and if I told you my expectation is that you make 15 calls a day, that's fairly clear. And if you told me back, I can do that as long as I have X, Y, and Z. Well, if I supply X, Y, and Z, I've met your expectation. Mine is that you get your calls. And we could meet those, and that's pretty simplistic in its basis. But so that's what I'm referencing when we do that, is that we try to break it. We're not going to be perfect. We're not going to be perfect, but be as clear as we possibly can so that we can please one another to a degree.
Now, I heard you say earlier, we had a conversation, we talked about it, sounded like we agreed. I might have heard something different than you. You are now going to follow it up with a redux in writing in an email or a text or whatever to say, here's what I heard. Is that what you heard?
Absolutely. And in our industry, the industry that I'm in the finance industry, the insurance industry, we are all guilty of hearing what we wanted to hear. I like to be able to go back later and read what I said. I have someone that goes with me when I'm at the office that takes minutes. And I'm astounded sometimes at reading my own minutes, like, oh, I didn't know I said that. And so it's important. We get caught up in the moment. We may say things that if viewed later by somebody, they perceived what I said much differently than what I intended. So write it down, make notes, and communicate clearly.
Well, don't forget to watch our next segment on steps 10, 11, and 12, part 5 in our series on the 12-step process of building long-term relationships. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, and compliance officer. And don't forget, you can subscribe to my consumer show, Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game. Content you can post on your website, social media accounts, and database distribution. I'm Steve Savant. Thanks for watching.